What's going on, everybody? Editor Honeybunch right here, and I just wanted to apologize for this episode. It's good. The whole thing is pretty good from what I was able to do. During the interview, it was, sort of choppy for both of us. He couldn't hear me at some points. I couldn't hear him at sometimes. It was just choppy based off of what I got from the recording. But I think the overall what I got was still good. I was able to salvage some of it, put it all together, and generally it's still a pretty good episode. It's like 20 plus minutes. Last time I checked, so I'm still glad with how it came out. I had to put it out. Um, it's just spread the word about what Mr. Clifford's doing, the great things that he is doing about his podcast, all the things like that. You'll find out about that during the episode. And I guess, sort of as an apology or thing like that, I will have no ads in the episode, none of the stoppages. So just the raw footage. I feel like it might be a waste of time to also put the little graphic with the social media stuff, but I will have all of this information linked in the description of however you are viewing, listening slash watching. Yeah, that will do it for everything. I hope you guys enjoy it. Still a great episode.
Today, I'm joined by a sports anchor and reporter from my favorite station, Wish TV, host of the Who's Got Next podcast, Mr. Charlie Clifford. How are you doing, sir?
Wow. What an intro, Christian. I appreciate it, man. Giving the podcast some love. I owe you one, man.
Oh, no problem. I mean, I saw that you haven't. Always got to spread the word for other people, you know?
No, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you. What's going on?
Nothing much, just getting stuff together for the show, Munch with Honeybunch, getting as many people as I can involved, but I'm going to go ahead and hop right in, for the beginning of your broadcasting career. I tried to do as much research as I could, but I was trying to figure out, when and how did you get your start?
Well, it was late. You're way ahead of me, pal. And keep up the great work. I've kept an eye on you since we've connected here. And looking forward to hearing your calls this season on the Mick Network. But we are, look, I got lucky. I went to college without really any serious thought of getting into broadcast journalism. Always loved sports, played growing up, basketball, baseball, golf. Just never had any other hobbies. Was always, the sports nerd of my friend group, and ultimately I kind of fell into it. I got a marketing degree in college, but, I did a bunch of extracurricular work with play-by-play and writing in the student newspaper. I went to Miami of Ohio, which isn't far here from Indy. And then some radio work with hosting shows and whatnot. So between that and taking a bunch of journalism classes, I concentrated in journalism heavily. My final really 3 semesters at Miami, trying to get serious about this, and then an internship with some great folks at WKRC in Cincinnati, which is the CBS station, really gave me the confidence to give this a shot. And so coming out of school, I knew I definitely wanted to get in. I didn't have a job coming out of school. Did a short stint at WGN Radio in Chicago, just really behind the scenes, helping people out with, anything. Really just trying to raise my hand for anything and for me. So I wound up there about 5 months after graduation, and it was just a great experience.
And you mentioned that you were a marketing major at Miami of Ohio. It's interesting because it's not what you're doing now. Do you think there are ways that you could pair it with broadcasting, or have you been able to do that so far?
Yeah, I think there's plenty that overlaps. Look, marketing, a lot of sales and selling your ideas and selling people's stories. That happens in broadcasting all the time. You have to be able to tell a good story and be a great communicator and be very organized. And I think, those are pillars of broadcasting as well. So although, I'm not in the sales or marketing department at Wish, I think looking back, yeah, there were a lot of, great fundamental things that are in the foundation of every good broadcaster that, and some folks, if you look up bios of people, at the biggest networks, I think what's so cool about this industry is, there's not one path. You don't have to go to med school and, pass, you don't have to go to one of the big four accounting firms. And there are so many routes you can take. It's really a wide open field. And, for somebody like me who doesn't have the traditional broadcasting path, that adds comfort to me. And I think it should, every young journalist, there's no perfect route. You're going to make the most of whatever comes your way. And, that's good, because some industries, unfortunately, aren't like that for many reasons.
And, you mentioned that, everybody has their own path, and we're in the generation now, at the time now, where people don't necessarily see it as a benefit or as the necessary path for them to go to college. Do you think that it's worth it to major in broadcasting when it's possible to do such great work without necessarily going to college for it?
Yes. The more reps, the more experience you can get, I really do feel like it's ultimately an out of classroom, only so much, sitting at a desk and hearing people. I think there is only so much you can learn in a classroom with what we're doing here. But, if you're, lucky enough to, or just, ahead of the game enough where you plan out, hey, I want to go to this school. I want to major in broadcast journalism. I want to major in what have you in terms of journalism. More power to you. Looking back, had I had the guts at the time, I would have done it, but I didn't. And, I'm trying to make the most of what I got. So yes, I think if you have a passion, whatever it is, anything, follow your gut, and you'll know if it's not right, and you'll be happy that you got to the plate and took a swing. Christian, I often tell people the last thing you want is like 30, 40 years down the road, you're sitting around thinking, man, what if I would have just given a crack at it? I think, that is one of the most brutal things to deal with later in life, to say, man, I didn't try.
So you said you started at the local 12 station as an intern. What were some of the responsibilities that you had back in the beginning?
Oh gosh. Well, I got lucky. I had a great producer by the name of Jed DeMusi, who's still there. He's the weekend anchor now, Channel 12 in Cincinnati. And, early, they let me do real things, which was great. Editing highlights, editing, quick story things, learning how to write for television. That was the number one thing. It's such a difference than writing for print journalism when, you really have, especially now with digital, infinite space to write and to convey your story. Where in television, you're down to the second. You're trying to maximize every second you're getting with great information, captivating, entertaining writing that ultimately reflects your personality, so people on the other side of the TV can enjoy the sportscast. So that was the number one thing, just writing, whether it was highlights, an anchor intro, a simple VOSOT. I'll never forget the first time Brad Johansson, main anchor there at the time, was like, all right, good. I'm going to go read it on TV. And I watched and he read it and I was like mesmerized. Wow. I wrote that. How is that possible? So I think that was the number one thing. All the editing stuff, if you get into it, you pick up your first job, they're going to teach you what software they use and how they like things edited and whatnot. It's so much of an on-the-job learning experience, especially early. But I think, regardless, if you can get reps and get a good idea of, the style of television writing, that can only help you.
And throughout your overall career, you've been able to bounce around at a few stations. What have you noticed is different about Wish TV for you right now?
Oh man. Well, it's a great place to work. And what a sports town Indianapolis is. I knew it a little bit in terms of the passion, but I mean, I think it's one of the most underrated sports cities in the world. It is.
World.
This place lives for sports. Come on, let's be honest. Between racing, the Pacers, Colts, college basketball, I mean, there is such a strong percentage of the population here in the Hoosier State that, sports is their number one love. It's their number one hobby. And so really it's just an honor, to be honest, to, share the stories of the people they watch on television and, the games, you wake up for and you're already thinking about, all right, what time's this game tonight?
Yeah.
You're just trying to get through work until the game's on. So, yeah, man, it's, just feel so lucky to be in this spot, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Because I've been able to be at the studio just a few times for marching band stuff. It really mesmerized me.
Yes.
It transitioned me from wanting to do radio over to TV stuff at school, because I was like, oh man, it's so cool how they do everything, seeing the behind the scenes, and I was like, wow, it really resonated with me, and I could say it changed my life, honestly.
Well, I'm glad you got a peek, man. I'm glad, I'm glad, indirectly you popped in, and yeah, I'm biased. Look, I think TV's a little more fun, but at the same time, the reps on the radio, that experience, that airtime is just as valuable. You're trying to do the same thing, right? You're trying to either share the story of the game, paint the pictures of what's going on. It is all even in terms of, I think valuable experience, especially early on. The more you can do, the more you can spread your wings and be a jack of all trades. I think that's only going to benefit you in the long term.
And before we moved on, I wanted to bounce back to, you're mentioning Indiana and its sports atmosphere. What do you think about the news about March Madness planning to be held here? Because I think it'll really be a test to how much we love basketball compared to other stuff, honestly.
I'm with you. Historic, right, Christian? I mean, this is never going to happen again, hopefully, knock on wood. And I think it's clear that the NCAA, look, they lost so much money in the past calendar year. It's clear. Coach K's come out and said it. We can't afford to miss March Madness twice. It's that big of an event. And for the NCAA to lean on Indy, which is one of its strongest allies, 8 Final Fours previously here, and to logistically try to get 68 teams, 67 games in one city in just over 3 weeks, it's going to be an absolute mountain. But we know with the gym space, with the convention center, with the local colleges and bigger high schools, if anybody can pull it off in logistically pretty easy fashion, this is the city to do it. You can get around, and it would be very cool if limited crowds could get in there to give it a little taste of March. But I think regardless, if the games get on TV, I mean, what a win that would be for the rest of the country. And I think it'll be, behind hosting Super Bowl in terms of the impact on the city, and just another, trophy on the mantle, so to speak, for what's really the best host city in terms of sports in the country.
I'm very excited to see how it plays out. But back to your career, what do you recognize as the most monumental moment that you've had?
Oh man, that's a great question. I don't know if I'm there yet. I don't think, if I'd hang up for whatever reason, it's a great question. It's one I really don't think about. I just feel really lucky that I've been able to, work in great places with great people who have invested a lot of time in my work in terms of helping me get better. And, you just want to make the people proud that have helped you. I think that's, why you do this. I think that's what keeps driving you. And yeah, monumental moment. I mean, there've been some great games. The Final Four actually in Indianapolis. I was in Wisconsin at the time when Wisconsin lost out to Duke, down the stretch. It was such a great Final Four, hosted at Lucas Oil. I'll never forget that week. And, the Colts, Andrew Luck's return and, 10-1 run to the playoffs. That was such a fun season a couple of years ago. Oladipo bringing LeBron to the brink. That Game 7 in Cleveland, I'll never forget. Luck retiring, probably won't cover that bizarre of a event ever, which is fine. So I think those four would definitely be in the top 5.
Well, I think it's honestly great that you haven't had a real monumental career, which shows that you have so much more growth to go and so much more to do in your career.
Yeah. Hey, you and I both, pal. You'll be right behind me. So cheers to that.
I appreciate that. I wanted to transition over to the Who's Got Next podcast. You've had some guests such as Erica Wheeler, Kenny the Jet Smith, Reggie Wayne, my man Joey Molinaro, and just so many great ones. Who were some of your favorites so far?
Ooh, well, Joey's just a great dude. He's a buddy of mine. I'll pass on it. You're a big fan. He has a lot of.
I've had him on the show.
You've had him on. There you go.
Yeah.
See, he is a lot of big fans. He's a great dude. I don't know, man. Erica Wheeler's was so special. She's such a cool leader, just underdog of underdog stories. And, for her to be really on the front line of the push for racial equality and social justice. What a cool person. Her and Tamika Catchings, we had Catch on, in the last couple of weeks. Same story. Indy's absolutely lucky to have both of them. In terms of other things, on a little on the lighter side, Kenny the Jet was awesome. Chris Fowler, ESPN's college football lead voice. It's just so refreshing, Christian, really to cross paths with these people and to realize firsthand how humble they are and just how great of people they are. It's reassuring. You're always not sure. Are the people at the top, are they good people? And there's, far and away nearly everyone I've come into contact with in the broadcasting world. It's like, wow, that person treats their teammates and random people will come up to them, just they give them the time. They're nice. They're, which is so reassuring. And I think, it reminds you to always stay that way, even when you catch some good breaks and, getting bigger seats. I think that's such an important piece of being in the public spotlight, right?
And I think your show, it definitely does help contribute to the different opportunities that you get behind the scenes. What is it like for you, and what are the obvious advantages that you have?
In terms of the podcasting, or
I guess with your role in general, with your job, and of course with the podcast.
Yeah. Well, it's a storytelling role first and foremost, whether that's during the week doing features, whether that's, sharing highlights, sharing interviews. I think that's the number one pillar of my job is go find great stories and make sure you shed the proper light on them. And that's very fun to do in a city like this. So, anchoring a couple nights a week, 5, 6, 10, and 11. So it's a lot of airtime, which is great. Reporting on our Colts pregame and postgame show every week, whether it's a bye or Thursday nighter, we're at every game traveling with the team, which is a blast. And then, same goes for college basketball and football coverage. A lot of it is on site, which is fun. Granted, this year's been a little different with the pandemic, but it's busy, man. It's, this is a sports city that never sleeps, so there aren't many quiet days.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be. Indiana is such a great place, and especially Indianapolis. But what is your process for planning out your different episodes of your show?
Well, a lot of the work, we have a feel of what's going on that day, and we kind of craft it to whatever comes out of the Colts press conferences or whatever comes out of the Pacers press conferences. So we normally have a general idea, but in terms of like the specific details of what we're mentioning on air, that's what's great. Every day's a new day. I mean, we do not get paid to do what we do to tell you about what happened 4 days ago. This is what happened today. So, everything is fresh, and as much as you need a plan and, a blueprint of what the week looks like, a lot of the actual decisions are made, after 2:00, for a 5:00 show, or for the 10:00 show, are made, at 8 and 9:00. So it's constant tinkering. Nothing's ever set in stone. We'll have feature stories that we write and do and that are still timely, that may be done a couple days or a week in advance, but most of the actual, discussion of what physically is going to be on TV that night happens, an hour or two before you actually see it.
Mm-hmm. And then what about the planning for your podcast also?
Yes, sorry. I meant to answer that first. It's been nice. Work's given me total freedom, bring on whoever you want, keep it an interesting conversation. You can kind of talk about whatever you want. So really, I just try to plan out in advance, so I'm not bugging people like, hey, can I talk to you tomorrow?
Yeah.
Which kind of like you did, how it works. You gotta stay after people. Hey, keep checking in. But I do one a week. Sometimes a couple a week if there's like a notable event that happened that we need to recap right away. But normally, at least one a week, and it's been great. We've been kind of throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks in terms of format. But really, I like connecting like we're doing here. You reach out to somebody and you share what they do, but you're really trying to share, their life story and how they got to that place. Because I know for folks like me and you, it's very interesting to see how people navigate life and ultimately reach their goals.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will definitely be sure to link the podcast. You have not a link tree for it, but just like a main link for it?
Yeah, I can send you like the link to the podcast app, and then also our, there's a web link to the homepage. So I can DM that. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
It's no problem. I'll do what I can just to help you out. It's a great show from what I've been able to see. Sort of not had homework's been piling up, so different podcasts it's been troubling, but I will do what I can. Transitioning over to Munch time, the rapid fire section of our show. I was wondering, you've been in Indiana for a while now. What is your ideal food spot here?
Ooh, ideal food spot. I love Livery downtown. It's fantastic. Other ideal food spots. Pizza, Basbo's is fantastic. We live downtown, so I don't get out a ton. But Mama Carola's up in Broad Ripple. That's a favorite of ours too. So I would go with those three.
Then I'm not sure if you're a superhero guy. Who would you consider your favorite if you had to choose one?
Oh, you know what, dude? I'm like so out of whack with the super. I don't know, Batman.
Batman.
I'm not the guy to go to on that. And I got to do one amendment to the favorite food spots. Keystone Sports Review, best wings in Indy.
Ooh,
no debate.
Sure. Yes. I'm gonna have to check all those out because I'm getting a car pretty soon. I got to get my food spots ready to just come spend some money.
Yes, sir, man.
Another one, if you had to choose to be at one of these, would you prefer to be at the Super Bowl, an NBA Finals Game 7, or the Indy 500?
Wow. That's a great question. Well, I've done the 500 now 4 times, so
No.
gonna put that to the side. And I do think it is like a top 3 or 4 sporting event, in the calendar year without question. It's amazing. So I'm gonna go game 7 of a finals. I think. Yeah, and I'm kind of a hoops guy originally, so I'm a little biased there. But any of those, gosh, the best.
And sticking with the basketball theme, I want to know your opinion on the Jordan versus LeBron debate. Who do you think is the greatest and your best reasoning?
Wow, what a question! I think Michael is the greatest competitor of all time, hands down. Any sport, really. Refuse to lose type deal. However, I think LeBron is he's a better player. I mean, the numbers are going to be there, the longevity, the just ability, physically, and to not have to give up any of, the traits of being a fantastic passer, 3-point shooter. I think he's the most dominant player we've ever seen. And therefore, I divvy it up that way. So, I know the eras aren't fair to compare. I mean, you look at some of the competition Jordan had to face, but then you factor in how the rules were different and the physicality. But yeah, I think LeBron, from a physical one-on-one standpoint, is the most dominant player we've ever seen.
I can respect that, sort of avoiding the controversy from the question. But that will do it for this episode of Munch with Honeybunch, joined by Mr. Charlie Clifford. Like we mentioned, we will be sure to link everything for social media, the podcast, all that. Thank you for tuning in, everyone, and have a day.